Happy 4th of July! I'm going to get this video out right away, so it's going to be a quick intro. We are celebrating a lot right now. Girls Rock Metal Detecting is celebrating 3 years. The birth of America, 4th of July, Memorial Day, D-Day, Airborne Week, the Somme, the Battle of Britain, celebrating all of this. Very important to remember those who served and who gave all. We're going to have a little bit of reverence here. We got a lot of digging, a lot of military-related finds that are awesome. And we're doing some field trips, so let's get started. Got a hubcap to a Model T Ford. It was right in the sidewall down here. 1951 wheat. The properties around this area and in town have just been giving some nice things up. So I know some great things are waiting to be found. Columbus Vending Company. A vending machine key. Well, that's weird. Like a lead weight or something? Is it a curtain weight? And another key. P&F Corbin, New Britain. So another brass key out here. And at first I thought this was a little bell. And then I realized it's probably a light pole. Okay, where's the old stuff? Let's keep at it. Well, I asked for old. Got an old coin here. Wheat penny. Looks like it says 1914. It's hard to see out in the direct sunlight. Still kind of caked in dirt. But it's in the teens. I see that much. So, a nice old wheat penny. We're barking up the right tree. Okay, I'm gonna do this live. I got this far down. I was running my hand across. And we look like we got a coin. Okay. I'm gonna try to do this live without... Let's see. Come on. Oh, it's a Washington. I was hoping for a little older, but dang, it's silver. It's silver. What is it? A 1934. $1934 silver quarter. So 2 on this property. This supposed hunted out property. There we go. It is amazing to me how that other one is so tarnished. They're on the same property. This one was quite a bit deeper though, and I think the other one was subjected to probably lawn chemicals and more of the elements. But this one is in amazing condition. Hey George. That is 2 Washingtons on the board out here. A little battle reenactment from the Revolutionary War for you there. And now we've got some World War II bling. This is an adjutant general officer's collar insignia. And as luck would have it, while engaging in some pre-4th celebrations, I accosted this man walking down the road in uniform. I begged a photo and he did one better. He invited us to meet his adjutant and his commander, and we had an after-hour tour of the museum.
Fayetteville Light Infantry is the oldest military organization in the South and dates from George Washington's time. Today, it is North Carolina's official historic military command.
I'm Bill Kern, I'm the adjutant.
Oh, I'm Bob Tiffany, I'm the color sergeant.
Then, in those days, the then new United States had a problem with soldiers. There were a whole lot of military units left over from the American Revolution, and not all of them were on our side. So you still had active loyalists and patriot groups in the country. So to settle that issue, Congress passed a law called the Militia Act, and that states that all armed groups are under state authority and in time of war under federal authority. And this was one of the military units formed out of the Militia Act of 1792. The reorganization of state militias and colonial militias became the genesis of what we now call the National Guard.
Is our commander, Bruce Dodd.
Hi, Commander.
We just borrowed these people off the street. We have, this is the World War I area here. Back in here is the Revolution and the war between the states area. There's Lafayette's carriage.
No,
That was what he rode in when he came to visit in 1825.
1825, very good. And you have people that will say, well, we've checked this part or that part, and it was made after that. Yeah, that's, who has a car and never repairs it?
Right, exactly.
And if he didn't ride in this carriage, why, he should have.
For sure.
And so there you go.
Love
Wasn't he
it.
like one of the youngest generals in the French army?
Or in the American army.
In the American
He was a
army?
major general in the American army. He was one of the last ones still surviving
Wow.
at the
He
time.
was also a general in
The
the
French Army,
Revolution, the French Revolutionary Army.
Yeah, and he wasn't treated too nicely. At one point, he was held prisoner in Austria for 8 years, I think
Wow.
it was.
Yeah.
And so he wasn't treated too well, but he's a hero in Fayetteville. This is the first town in the United States named for the Marquis. As I said to one little old lady, it was the only city named for him that he visited during his lifetime. And she said, well, he couldn't very well have done it any other time, young man. And I had, well, right, you are. Major Haig wore this jacket in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania on the 4th of July, 1876,
Wow.
when he led his company and they marched, you see, through the city of Philadelphia, with all these units from north and south, to the cheers of thousands of citizens. You cannot make sense of it in the ordinary way, you know, and yeah, there was a lot of destruction and hard feelings that exist to the present day. If the state ever wants their rifles, we don't have them anymore. They were lost in this Civil War. But we can show you who signed for them.
That's awesome. It's all there in the books.
British 303, right?
It is a 303,
Yes.
and it's
SMLE 303, yes sir.
and we turned in our American rifles and drew British rifles because we were assigned. The 2nd Corps, with the 30th Division and the 27th Division, were assigned to the British Army in Flanders, and that's where our guys fought. It is a Springfield Mark I, and perhaps you've never heard of it. That you would have a couple men who would carry this. They could convert it quickly to this semi-automatic carbine, and they could fire rounds to keep their heads down.
Is that a Cohorn order?
That's very cool.
And yes, it works.
How cool is that? What was the ammunition that came out of that? Do you know?
With like a 2-pound ball.
Okay.
Alrighty.
Howdy, how are you?
I'm fine. I'm warm.
Yeah, he's warm too. We made him put his jacket on.
Sure.
Have you bored them stupid yet?
No, not at all. We're loving it. This is the second padlock that I found out here. The other one was more intricate, a little older. this one looks like it was cut off. I don't know. Seems suspicious to me. Oh wow. This is really something. It's real delicate. Ring up 75, all the way up to 85. There seems to be some sort of design on the front. It's a locket for sure. It's got real delicate hinges and tabs. It feels older, and I think it looks like it's stamped brass. And that definitely fits the period of this property. It's early 1900s. Okay, I don't want to open it any more than that because I'm afraid it's going to break at the top. I love that. I just love this. Oh my gosh, do you see that? I hope this is focusing good. I got it cleaned up. You see the Great Seal? It opens up. It's so delicate. It is definitely a sweetheart locket. It's older. I'm gonna say World War I. We're not far from Fort Bragg. Actually, it was Camp Bragg during World War I. They were artillery training. It totally fits. The Great Seal was used on a lot of the Army uniforms. It's the uniform buttons for World War I, World War II, and to modern day too, has the Great Seal. It's really, you can tell it's old. It looks like it had a picture on the inside, but that's long since disintegrated. But you can get a better idea of the Great Seal too on the inside there. Just to think, somebody gave this to their sweetheart before going to war, and they wore it in remembrance. I hope they came back. But wow, that is definitely cool. Coming off the cusp of Memorial Day and going into 4th of July, really want to take the time to think about soldiers who lost their lives. And this really does bring it home, doesn't it? Wow. It is madness. That's kind of fitting for military 4th of July weekend. Welcome everyone to Fort Sumter. We are on location in Charleston, North Carolina.
Ahead of us is Fort Sumter, a powerful symbol of one of the greatest challenges this country ever faced.
Let's get in here and investigate the fort. On December 20, 1860, South Carolina seceded from the Union. 10 other states soon followed, making up the Confederate States of America. At the time South Carolina seceded, there were 3 U.S. fortifications in Charleston Harbor. Castle Pinckney, built in 1810, which was in need of serious repair. Fort Moultrie, built in 1776, served as the major fortification to defend the harbor. That was until construction began on the 3rd fortification in 1829, Fort Sumter. Sitting on a man-made island in the mouth of the harbor, this brick fort was 90% complete when Major Robert Anderson assumed command under cover of darkness on December 26th and began to prepare for combat. Strategically, Fort Sumter was the safest and most defensible position he could hold against attack with the limited number of men and supplies at his disposal. Within a few days, South Carolina militia seized Fort Moultrie, Castle Pinckney, and all other federal property in the area. They rebuilt batteries and constructed new fortifications to include those on Sullivan's Island, Morris Island, and James Island. With 43 Confederate cannons aimed at Fort Sumter and over 3,500 Southern soldiers manning the Charleston harbor, the Federals were at a clear disadvantage, and without control of the harbor, they quickly ran low on supplies. In January, a Federal relief ship, the Star of the West, set to deliver much-needed supplies to Anderson and his men on Fort Sumter. As the unarmed ship attempted to enter the harbor, cadets from Charleston's elite Citadel Military Academy opened fire. The Star of the West turned back. After 3 months had passed, Major Anderson and his men were in a bad way, low on supplies and small in number. The inhabitants of Fort Sumter awaited attack at any time from the Confederates surrounding them. As a last effort to avoid war, the Confederate government ordered General Pierre-Gustave Toutant Beauregard to demand evacuation of Fort Sumter. General Beauregard was a gunner, a former student of West Point, who was so skilled in artillery that his instructor kept him on as an assistant for another year. That instructor was none other than Major Robert Anderson, the Union commander inside Fort Sumter. If there ever was a great example of the Civil War pitting family, brother, and friends against one another, this is certainly one. The two men engaged in negotiations, with General Beauregard sending the Confederate ultimatum to his former instructor. Each time Anderson refused. But despite the outstanding friendship, at 4:30 a.m., April 12, 1861, Edmund Ruffin, a civilian farmer and editor from Virginia, gave the order to fire a shot from Fort Johnson. It exploded high in the air above Fort Sumter, signaling the Confederate batteries to open fire. The Civil War had begun. For 34 hours, Fort Sumter was under attack, taking more than 3,000 shells. Union Major Robert Anderson was not willing to risk his men on Sumter's open parapet to man the largest guns, and on April 13th, a blaze broke out after shots were fired from Fort Moultrie. With Fort Sumter's powder magazine now at risk, and not enough men to fight the fire and defend the fort at the same time, Major Anderson had no recourse but to surrender. Union ships created a blockade in the harbor to keep cargo ships from entering the port while Confederate forces took occupation of Fort Sumter, which now stood as a symbol for the South as sacred ground where the first shot of the war was fired. For the North, Fort Sumter symbolized disloyalty and secession. From that time on, Charleston remained relatively peaceful until April 1863, when Federal gunboats began shelling Charleston and took Morris Island. The Confederates still held most of the strategic positions around Charleston Harbor, and the Union was unable to take Fort Sumter by sea. But Morris Island was the key location from which to attack Fort Sumter and Charleston. For the next 20 months, Union forces bombarded Fort Sumter. With crumbling walls and dismounted cannons, Confederate forces evacuated the pile of rubble that was now Fort Sumter. On April 14, 1865, 4 years after the Union surrendered Fort Sumter, Major Anderson came out of retirement and raised the American flag over the fort once again. The Civil War was over. Let's go check out the fort. This is one of the 42-pounder smoothbore cannons. They surround the lower tier of the fort. They had 27 of these guns total. This particular gun was found during excavation in the 1950s. Out in the outer walls of the fort, and you can still see shells and cannonballs embedded into the brick. Cannonballs. There's some canister shot. Now these are the really big guns, 100-pounder cannons here. This 10-inch mortar is original to the fort. It's similar to that used for the first shot from Fort Johnson, and late into the war the Confederates mounted several of these to use for the fort's defense. Their range was 2,225 yards. This big black concrete structure is a battery that was built during the Spanish-American War. It was completed in August 1889. When they built it, they encased the Parrott guns where they remained until the 1950s excavation. And over here, we have the ruins of the officers' quarters. This is where Anderson and Beauregard would have stayed. Here we are upstairs on the parapet. Spanning around, you can see why Anderson kept his men on the first tier. They would have been sitting ducks from all angles. From here, you can see Sullivan's Island. The H.L. Hunley was the first submarine in history to sink an enemy ship. It set out from Sullivan's Island into the harbor. The vessel had a torpedo attached to a 17-foot spar on its bow, and its target was the U.S. Housatonic, a blockade ship. The Hunley was successful in detonating their payload, which tore through the wooden hull of the Housatonic, quickly sinking it. However, the Hunley was not safely away when the black powder torpedo detonated. It too sank with all of its crew still on board. Speculation after the sub was recovered in May of 1995 suggests that the crew actually died from the concussion of the explosion. The H.L. Hunley is nearly 40 feet long and held a crew of 8 men who sat in a line turning a hand-crank propeller while one man steered the vessel. The Hunley saw 21 deaths in its career, including its designer, before its final voyage on October 15, 1863. This small 12-pound mountain howitzer faces Morris Island, where the Star of the West was turned back, and also where the Union began their siege to take back the fort. Now down again at the lower tier, and we have even more guns. Well, I hope you enjoyed the quick journey through time. Let's get back to some detecting, shall we? We've got an incredible piece of Civil War memorabilia to share with you. And that's just moments away. I wasn't going to dig this. It was flipped over on the other side, so I didn't see the colors, and I could tell it was kind of big, and I said, what the heck. Got a 1943 North Carolina license plate. That is cool. I love it. Holy smokes. Check this one out, you guys. Oh my god, it's some sort of badge. You see it says Old North State and Charlotte in 1929. You got the sword and the rifle crossed. Very cool. It looks like there might have been a pin on the back or some writing, but wow, that's small. Definitely something to research here. This really has me intrigued. Very, very cool. Okay, this is crazy. The next hole, and this is what I turn up. UCV, United Confederate Veterans, of course, 39th Annual Reunion, June 4, 5, 6, 7, 1929. These pieces have to go together. This is incredible. Just incredible. Okay, I got it all cleaned up, did some research. This is, of course, a commemorative medal for the 39th reunion of the UCV. It took place in Charlotte, North Carolina in June 1929. I was able to find a match, so this is what it would have looked like. And I also found an online version of the program and some video footage of the event. Check this out.
More people here, and the treatment is like.
And did you ever see as many pretty girls?
No, I never did.
Fireworks over the airport. Oh, that was cool. Happy 4th of July! Trying to get this video out as soon as possible. We're celebrating everything right now from May to June to July.
And Pokemon Go.
And I'm trying to get this video out as soon as possible. Night digging done. Other than that, we are celebrating 4th of July. What else is going on from May to July? Memorial Day, Airborne Week, D-Day, the Battle of the Somme, the Battle of Britain.
In memory of John Holmes.
No, I think, is he dead? Well, we're not going to celebrate him. But anyway, I'll see you in a few weeks, everybody.